This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Answer Lilay Nishmas, Rabbi Avram Mordechai ben Yosef, Rabbi Avram Shechter, whose yard site is Hey Cheshvan. His Neshama Shavin Aliyah should be a male Yosef for his whole mishpacha, for Simchas Anachas, Ad B'Yas Gol Tzedek.
Amen. One more.
Okay, Baruch Haba to the Kollel Iger de Pirka here in Kew Garden Hills, New York. Parshas Lecha. We have an astounding Gemara, a very mysterious Gemara. The Gemara says in Masechta Sukkah, Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph. Hahi Sabasa. There's an old lady, an Alta Yidina. Da'asoi lekamei de Rav Nachman. She comes before Rav Nachman, and she comes with the taina. Amrolei. She says to him, Reish Galusa, the exilarch. The exilarch was a political position, a rabbinic position, leader of the Jewish people. She had tainas against the Reish Galusa. She says, the exilarch, v'kulu rabbanon debei Reish Galusa, and all the rabbis of the house of the Reish Galusa, besukkah gezula havayasvi. They're sitting in a stolen sukkah. And you know they stole it from? They stole it from me. They took my beam, and they built a sukkah. Give me my beam back. I want my beam back. So what do you need your beam back? She said, no, your business, it's my beam. I don't know, my kid's not behaving, give me my beam back. Tzavcha, she cried, she shrieked, she shouted, V'lei ashkach ba Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman ignored her. Rav Nachman did not pay attention to her. She says to Rav Nachman, you know who you're talking to? I don't think you know who you're talking to, Rav Nachman. Amrullah, she said to him, Itza dahavele la'avua, a woman who her father had, Tlasmeya v'tamni sri avdi. I'm a woman who my father had 318 slaves. Tzavcha kamaychu is screaming before you, v'loyashkachisu, and you're not listening to her. Do you know who I am? You know who you're talking to? You're just ignoring me? My father has 318 slaves. Says Gemara Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, "Pe'isahi, she's just a kvetch. All she gets is the value of the wood." In other words, there's a halacha that technically, if you steal a beam and you build it into a building, or if you steal a thread and you weave it into a garment, the halacha is that you need to unravel the garment, you need to undo the building, and return the beam and return the thread. However, there's a takanas hashavim, there's a takana in order to facilitate tshuva, where we say if people are going to have to return the brick or return the thread, nobody's going to want to do tshuva. Who's going to want to unravel the whole garment? So therefore, mnei takanas hashavim, we say you only pay for the value of the eitzim, and therefore Rav Nachman said, let them continue to sit in the sukkah, and they only have to pay her the value of the wood. The question is, what is this nonsense that this woman is spewing? That, do you know who you're talking to? Do you know who I am? My father had 318 slaves. Good for you. I could care less how many slaves and how much money did he have in his bank account, in his escrow. How much does he have stashed away in Switzerland? I mean, she's coming in front of Rav Nachman. She's saying, Rav Nachman, you know who I am? My father had 318 slaves. Next. Who cares? What's a woman? And this is in the Gemara. I could care less how many slaves the woman's father had. What's she talking about? What's she talking about? It's Gemara in Sanhedrin, and Daf Tzadi Zayin. Tan Rabbanan. Ki yadin Hashem amoy, ki yira ki azas yad, v'yafes atzur v'azov. Says the Gemara, Ein ben David ba ad. When's David HaMelech coming? So you look in the Rishonim, they give different dates when Mashiach is coming. If you want to know Mashiach coming, Rashi says 1352. The Ramban said 1358. The Malbim said 1913. When we were learning Daniel, we said 2013. It was a better guess, but it also passed, right? But the Gemara says a date. The Gemara says, Davar Acher, Ad sheyisyashu min ha'geula. Mashiach will come when people give up hope. Shenemar, v'yefes, atzur, v'yazov. One of the big wars in Eretz Yisrael, and there was a lot of messianic talk, so Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky got up and he says, I know for sure Mashiach is not coming. He said, Rebbe, even if those who support the state that's not your shita, but maybe Mashiach, you can never know Mashiach is not going to. No. said, I know for sure Mashiach is not coming.
To what show?
How? He said, because the Gemara says, Mashiach comes at sheyisyashu min hagula, when people don't think he's coming. Now that everybody thinks he's coming, then we know he's not coming. But one of the ways that the Gemara says when Mashiach comes is ad sheyisyashu min hagula. When people give up hope from the Geula coming, Shenemar v'efes, Atzor v'azov, Kiviyachal, Ein Soimech v'oizer l'Yisrael. Mashiach will come when things seem hopeless. Question is, why? Why will the salvation only come when we are Nesyayish min hagula? So coming to this week's Parsha, Avram Avinu finds himself in a very, what seems to be a hopeless situation. We know the war of the 4 kings against the 5 kings, and the 4 kings are very powerful. They defeat the 5 kings, and they capture Abraham's relative, Lot. Vayishma Avram ki nishba achiv. Avram heard that his nephew was captured. Vayarek es chanichav, and he armed his soldiers, Yelidei Vesai, of his household. How many? Shmoina asar ushloish meyos. 318. Vayirdoif Adon, and he pursues them until done. Says Rashi. 318. Who cares? Who cares? 318. And if it would be 316, and it would be 253, and it would be 1,000. I mean, Dvarim Gedolim Eino B'Mikra, the Maral says. Big things are not coincidental. So I'm proud of you that you remember the Rashi. Rashi says, Rabbi Seinu Amru, Eliezer Levadei Haya. It wasn't 318. It was Eliezer. V'hu minyan gematria shel Shemai. And the gematria of Eliezer is 318. So it doesn't mean he took 318. It means he took Eliezer. It's very problematic. Because let's say I tell you, I'm giving shiur tomorrow. And everybody comes. And I don't show up. They say, you know what I meant tomorrow? The gematria of tomorrow is in 17 years from now. You should have known that. Let's say I tell you, I'm giving you kesef. And I don't give you the kesef. But the gematria of kesef is 180. I can give you 180 toothpicks. You should know, that's, gematria. Everybody knows gematria. What's the Torah saying? It says he took 318 men. Ein mikro yotzei midei pshutai. I mean, what is forcing Rashi to darshan that it refers to Eliezer? The Torah says 318. What does 318 mean? What does 318 mean? What does 318 mean? Why would the Torah say 318? So Rabbeinu Bechaya says the following. Vayishma Avram ki nishba achiv. Hislabish gevura kishashama ha'inyan. Avram Avinu donned himself, girded himself with great strength. And he armed his household. V'limdecha akosov ki anosha b'nei vesai hasmuchim al shulchanai. There were 318 men. And Rashi and the Rabbeinu Bechai brings down the drasha of Chazal and the Gemara Nadarim. It refers to Eliezer. Fret Rabbeinu Bechai v'yesh lisho. You could ask a question here. That according to this, 318 is not literal. Elachida, it's a riddle. It's some kind of encoded message. Al Eliezer levadai. But isn't there a rule? Rashi says in Bereshis, you should memorize this. Paragimel, pasuk ches. Va'ani lepshutai shel mikra haba. I'm just a simple Jew. I come to explain the simple meaning of the pasuk. Is the simple meaning of the pasuk that Abraham took Eliezer? The simple meaning of the pasuk is as clear as day. The simple meaning of the pasuk is he took 318 people. You have a kasha on the pasuk. Rashi is bavoning. I don't understand. It says 318. Don't worry. The teretz says Eliezer. What's the kasha? 318 is 318. Ein mikra yotzei midei pshutai. Says Rabbeinu Bechai, let me explain something to you. And by the way, the Das Zakenim says the same thing. The Bali Tosis says the same thing. Avram Avinu definitely, no question, had 318 men. That's what the Chumash says. You can't argue with that. You can, with every finger and fetch in the world, it's a 318 is 318. Abraham had 318 people. They ate at his house. And they armed for battle. But then Avram Avinu made an announcement. Miha ish hayare v'rach halevav, right? The Gemara, the Torah says when you go out to war, you have to make the following announcement. Who might be afraid of an avera that they have in their hand? Who might be afraid? Now, what avera is that talking about? It's Machlokes Babli and Yushalmi. One opinion is that if somebody speaks between Tefillin Shel Yad and Tefillin Shel Rosh, you're disqualified from war. So that's something we're zahir in. We know you can't speak between Tefillin Shel Yad and Tefillin Shel Rosh. If you speak between Shel Yad Shel Rosh, don't defend the state. Don't defend Eretz Yisrael. You're disqualified. There's another opinion. Machlokes Bavli and Shav. The other opinion is if you speak between Hasach Bein Yishtabach LiYotzer. You're not allowed to talk between Yishtabach and Yotzer. Question is, but you're allowed to speak. Then after Baruch Chei Ha'olamim and Baruch Atah Hashem Yitzchak, you're allowed to talk for a Dvar Mitzvah. You're allowed to talk for a Dvar Mitzvah. In fact, let's say you need a minyan. So you want to call somebody. You have 9 people. There's some shuls in this neighborhood. I'm not going to mention which one. Sometimes they have a hard time getting a minyan. So let's say you want to call. You have 9 people. You want to attend. Could you do it in the middle of Sukkah Zimra? No. But between Yishtabach and Yotzeh, for Dvar Mitzvah, you're allowed to talk. But only for Dvar Mitzvah. For non-Dvar Mitzvah, you're not allowed to talk. It's such a big chait that if you talk there, not for Dvar Mitzvah, don't bother defending Eretz Yisrael. You're not gonna survive. Certainly, if you talk by Psukei de Zimra, you're out. Certainly, if you talk by Chazaras Hashatz, you're out. So Avram Avinu gathered 318 men, and then he made a big rally. He said, "Okay, everybody, we have to defend the Eretz Yisrael. We have to go capture Lech. Anyone here ever talk by Kaddish?" 50 guys ran away. Anyone here get married and didn't consummate the marriage, didn't do the Nesuin? 12 guys left. Anyone here buy a new house, didn't make Chanukas Habayis? He's left with nobody. After the clarion call, anyone here talk by davening, everybody left. Guess who he's left with? Only one person, Eliezer. So he started out with 318. Vayorek. Vayorek has 2 meanings, says Rabbeinu Machai. Vayorek means he armed. Vayorek means he emptied them out. And he's left with only Yelidei Beisai Eliezer. But Eliezer is not 318. No, in Gematria, Eliezer is 318. In other words, it's not misleading to say he took 318 men, because he did take 318. But Vayorek, he emptied them out, so then it should say that there was nobody left. No, it's still correct to still use 318, because 318 is Gematria, Eliezer. But still, Ikar Chaser min HaPasuk. It doesn't say they all ran away and Eliezer remained. What's the deeper meaning over here that Avram Avinu took 318? Let's look a little further. And it says in this week's Parsha, Vayecholek Aleihem Laila, and he divided them night. Now it doesn't say he divided them during the night or over the course of the night. He divided them night. So Rashi's father, it should say Vayecholek Aleihem Bilayla. So Rashi brings down Medrash Haggadah. Shenechlak Halayla. Hashem divided the night. Chetzioi Harishain Nasaloi Nes. The first half of the night was the miracle of Abraham rescuing Lot. When? That night. V'chetzioi Hasheni, and the second half of the night, Nishmar Uvaloi L'chatzoi Slailo Shomatzan, was preserved for Vayihi B'chatzi Halayla Makas B'charis. Interesting thing. The Rebbeinu Shalom divided the night. The first half of the night was for the miracle of the rescue of Lot. The second half of the night was Yetzias Mitzrayim. To me, that's very unusual. I mean, if the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to make a miracle, let him make a miracle. He needs to when it came to Yetzias, we don't really have enough miracles to go around, but it's a good thing to have some leftovers from the rescue of Lot, and it's a good thing I saved that night in half, so I have some Shiurim from Lot, so it's a good thing I could take it out of Mitzrayim, I have some leftovers. I mean, you ever find that when Hashem had to make the moon stand still, so it's a good thing to have Shiurim from when the sun rose early for Yaakov Avinu. I mean, a miracle is a miracle. You don't find anywhere where the Rebbeinu Shalom divided a nest, half for this and half for that. Well, what's this Indian that the first half of the miracle was designated for the rescue of Lot, and the second half of the miracle was designated for Yetzias Mitzrayim? I mean, when Daniel was in the lions, then Hashem said, let's use some leftover makas arayvs to get you at. A miracle is a miracle. When Hashem wants to make a miracle, He does it. When He doesn't want to, He doesn't. There wasn't enough to go around that He has to use leftovers. Says the Torah in Parshas Shoftim, Ki seitze la mochama ala yevecha. When you go out to war against your enemy, Isa, and you see sus, horses, barechev, chariots, amrav, a great nation, mimcha, greater than you. Lo yisira mehem, don't be afraid. Ki Hashem Elokecha imach, God is with you. Hamalcha me'eretz Mitzrayim, who took you out of the land of Egypt. What's this talking about? When you go out to war against your enemy, and you see horses and chariots, a great number, a great nation from you, don't be afraid of them, because I am Hashem your God who took you out of Mitzrayim. Says our Chaim HaKadosh, and we'll introduce in the following way. There's a challenge in life that everybody faces, and that is when a person wants to do a mitzvah, a person says to himself, and the Yetzer Hara comes to a person and says, you're going to do a mitzvah? What are you doing a mitzvah for? So, well, I want to come close to Hashem. Come close to Hashem. You think Hashem wants you to come close to Him? You think Hashem wants your mitzvah? You know who you are? You know what you did last year? You know what you did when you were younger? You know what you did yesterday? You know what you did last night? You're disgusting to Hashem. Hashem doesn't want you. Hashem doesn't like you. You're so sullied, you're so dirty, you're so hopeless, you're so helpless. You're nothing. Hashem doesn't want your mitzvah. And the Yetzer Hara starts conjuring up the following image. When you go out to war against your enemy, Yetzer Hara says, you see all these disgusting malachim that are standing around you? Hundreds and thousands of malachim, mashchisim, disgusting malachim. You know who created them? You! Every time you did an aveir, you created a mashchis. You created a despicable, mutated malach. And this whole team and this whole army of angels, you know who created it? You made it! You're not going to overcome that. You're not going to ever rise above that. And this is what the main tactic of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara wants you to feel helpless, hopeless. Not only in Ruchnius, in Gashmius. Person could find themselves in many different types of difficulties. Physically, sometimes health issues where a person feels it's impossible to overcome. It's impossible to extricate from. There's no refuah. There's no way out. Physical, family situations, personal situations, emotional distress. Especially, we live in a generation where the atzavim, the nerves are very weak. The emotional makeup is very weak. And people are struggling with depression, people struggle with anxieties, people struggle with all kinds of issues, personal issues. And sometimes it seems very bleak, and sometimes it seems very dark, and sometimes it seems hopeless, helpless. There's no way out. What is this called? Yiyush. It's called Yiyush. Yiyush is the number one tactic of Yetzer Hara. Give up. Give up hope. Throw in the towel. You're useless. You're a failure. You'll never get out of this problem. This situation, personal, family, health, emotional, ruchnius. You're going to be a holy person. You're not going to be a holy person. You know what you did. You know what you do. You know what you're going to continue to do. So you're going to really learn. You're going to really daven to Hashem. It's impossible. There's a sefer, look at number 11. The name of the sefer is Eitzos v'Hadrachos. It was written by Rabbi Yaakov Greenwald, who was a psychologist in Muncie. I think he lives in Eretz Yisrael now. He was a Talmud of he was a Talmud of the Manchester Rosh Yeshiva and also the Stipler. And he wrote now 2 volumes, Eitzos v'Hadrachos. And he writes, it's very much about...
He's Ronnie Greenwald's brother.
Yeah.
He used to live in Brooklyn. He used to live in Kew Gardens. Yeah, I know.
I don't know all of his residences, but he's a zaken right now. He lives in Eretz Yisrael. He writes, it's about kochas hanefesh. He has a parish on the Grudge Shivim kochas hanefesh. He writes, Mikol rigshei ha'adam, from all a person's feelings, whether it's anger, jealousy, le'nimtza regesh, there is no feeling that man has Sheyesh bekoichai lichboish, that could bring a person down, that could conquer a person. Lahastir, that could destroy a person. V'lemnoya, that could keep a person away. Va'af ledake koiches hanefesh, to crush man's personality. There is nothing that could destroy a human psyche like Yush. There is nothing that could sap a person from energy like Yush. There's nothing that could make a person fall apart like hopelessness. That there's no way out. And this could be a number of different circumstances. Physical, emotional, psychological, ruchnius, gashmius, financial. Where a person says, you know what? Throw in the towel. There's certain things in everyone's life where a person says, this area, forget it. Yush, it's impossible. And as much as we try, we don't think it's possible. And that is the main tactic of the Yetzer Hara. Says Ar Chaim HaKadosh. When you go out to war against your enemy, who's your enemy? The Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara shows you the impossibility of it. He says, Am Rav, you see all these disgusting malachim. Mimcha, you created it. It's not like, the Yetzer Hara says, it's not like, this is just hopeless by itself. It's hopeless because you made it hopeless. Says the Torah, Lo Shiur Mehem. Don't be afraid. Why? Ki Hashem Elokecha imach, the Rebbeinu Shem was with you. Hamalcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. He took you out of Mitzrayim. Now, what does Mitzrayim have to do with this? We'll have to see. The Gemara says in Masechta Brachos, the famous exchange between Yeshaya Hanavi and Chizkiah HaMelech. Chizkiah HaMelech was a great king. We learned last week. He was Marbitz Torah Midan V'Yad Beersheva, to the point where you didn't have Tinoik v'Tinoikis that was not a Baki B'dinei Tumah v'Taros. And Yeshaya Hanavi comes, he knocks on Chizkiah's door. Chizkiah, who's there? It's Yeshaya, what would you like? He said, I have bad news and I have worse news. The bad news is you're going to die, and the worst news is you're not going to have Olam Haba. Chizkiah says, me? I'm the biggest Marbitz Torah in the history of Klal Yisrael. Says Yeshaya, that's right. We don't care, but Hashem doesn't care. You're going to die, and you lost Olam Haba. He said, what did I do wrong? So what did you do wrong? You don't want to have children. Of course I don't want. I saw Baruch HaKodesh that my children are going to be Rishon. So Yeshaya tells him the well-known expression. He said, what are you doing meddling in the affairs of heaven? What are you? It's none of your business. You do what you have to do. You do your achrais. You take care of your responsibility. Hashem will control the rest. So Chizkiah says, you big talker, Yeshaya. I'll marry your daughter. He says, Yeshaya, I want you to know that you're a good man, but Ben Amoitz, get out of here. Get lost, scram, go fly a kite, go jump in the lake. You're a good guy, you're a good Navi, but you're wrong. I'm not going to die and I'm not going to lose Olam Haba. Kach mikublani mimeis dino shel avi abba. I have the following tradition. Kach mikublani mimeis avi abba. Afilu cherev chada munachas al tzavorei shel adam. Al yimna atzmoi min harachamim. Even when the sword is on the neck, don't ever give up hope. I have a tradition, Chizkiah says, from my grandfather, that even when the sword is on the neck, never give up hope. So you're telling me I'm going to die? You're telling me I lost Olam Haba? Get out of here. You want to tell me Nevuah? No problem. You want to tell me what's going to be in the future? No problem. Don't tell me I'm hopeless. I have a tradition from my grandfather that even when the sword is on the neck, you don't give up hope. Question is, David HaMelech came to Chizkiah one day and he said, Tatala, I want to tell you something. Even when there's a sword on your neck, don't give up hope. Doesn't say that anywhere. Where did Chizkiah get this idea? From where does the Gemara know that David HaMelech told Chizkiah, Afilu cherev chada munachas al tzavorei shel adam hayim na'atzem min harachamim? So I want to bring to your attention possibly the most famous piece in all the writing of Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Tzadok HaKohen Milublin, one of the all-time great, brilliant minds who lived from 1823 to 1900. At the end of his life, he was very influenced by the Ishbitzer. The Reb Tzadok HaKohen writes in the Divrei Sofrim in number 15. Says Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Ein liyehudi lehisyayish mishum davar. If you're a Jew, You don't give up hope. Bein b'inyanei haguf, whether it's in a physical situation, whether it's health, whether it's a certain matzav. Chazal say, afilu cherev chada munachas al tzavaro shel adam al yimna atzmai min harachamim. You never give up hope. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen, and even in Ruchnius, sometimes a person finds themselves so immersed in an avera, where not only are they doing the avera with so much cheshek and so much taiva, and their mind is so preoccupied with avera, and sometimes very frightening, because the Zohar HaKadosh says, Parshas Vayechi, that there are certain averos you can't do tshuva for.
You can't do what?
Can't do tshuva for. Zohar says, Hitzah zara levatala, can't do tshuva. And says Rav Tzadok, sometimes a person sees that, and he says, that's it. What's the point? What's the point of even trying anymore? Okay, there's certain things, you could become so defiled, so sullied, you can't do tshuva. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen, it's not true. There's no yiush by a Jew. Hashem could extricate a person from any matzav, from any situation. How is Klal Yisrael built? How did the Rebbeinu Shalom build Klal Yisrael? Who is Klal Yisrael banoyan? Avraham and Sarah. Now, Avraham and Sarah, were they just had a difficult time having children? Were they just not so fertile? Avraham was an akar. He was toichein ve'inay pailin. Sarah Imenu, she wasn't just an old lady. Like the doctor said, well, she's over a certain age and the eggs are not over it. No. Forget the eggs. She was an akara. Forget an akara. The Gemara says in Yavamas, she was an islandess. She didn't have a rechem. She wasn't infertile. She didn't have clay hamoilet. She was an islandess. It was missing. If they would have gone to the fertility specialist, they wouldn't have said, the likelihood, it's not really worth. It's impossible. It's impossible. And yet, we're here. How's that? That means the Rebbeinu Shalom built Klal Yisrael in a way that we are beyond Yush. That means if you look at probability, if you look at possibility, Klal Yisrael is impossible. Hashem built Klal Yisrael in a situation that we could only exist when it's impossible to exist. That's what we're built on. We're built on rising above Yush. We're built on the impossible.
The eternal people.
That says Rav Tzadok HaKohen. This is the meaning of Ein ben David ba asher yisyashu min hagula. Mashiach will only come when we give up hope. Why is that? Because Rebbeinu Shalom is demonstrating that's the fabric of Klal Yisrael. That's the nature of Klal Yisrael. You know how Hashem programmed our people? He programmed us that we flourish when it's impossible. That we are successful when the matzav seems hopeless. Not only seems, is. When the matzav is hopeless, that's when Hashem brings the Yeshua. That's how Hashem created us to begin with. That's when the Geula comes. Where did this come from? Who instilled this into our people? Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen. There was a great man by the name of Avraham Avinu. You know what was the most hopeless situation in history? When the 4 kings defeated the 5 kings. That means these 4 kings were so powerful, they beat the biggest superpower in the world. And Avraham Avinu hears that his nephew Lot is captured. So Avraham Avinu says, let's go get him! And he gathers together 318 men. And what kind of ammunition do you think they had? So they took their soda bottles, and they took their little sticks, and they went to fight the biggest superpower in the world. Was that unreasonable? More than unreasonable. Was that improbable? It was not improbable. It was impossible. Says Avraham Avinu, what do you do in the impossible situation when a situation seems hopeless? How do you say hopelessness in Hebrew? Yush. What's the gematria of Yush? Yud is 10. Aleph is 1, 11. Vav is 6, 17. Shin, 300. 317. Yush is 317. The only way to be successful when there's Yush is you have to rise above Yush. So Avraham Avinu takes 318. 318 is he's going to overcome Yush. He's going to overcome hopelessness. He's going to overcome the impossible. So who does he take? He takes Eliezer. What's Eliezer? Well, we know, in order to know what a word means, you have to go to the first time it appears. Who's the first person named Eliezer? The son of Moshe Rabbeinu. V'shem ha'echad Eliezer. Ki Elokei avi bi'ezri vayatzileni mecherev Paroi. Moshe Rabbeinu was running away from Paroi, and Paroi took the axe. And he swung it at the neck of Moshe Rabbeinu. Was there ever a point in history that it was more hopeless than when the axe of Paroi hit the neck of Moshe Rabbeinu? Never. And yet what happened to Moshe? Chazal say his neck turned into marble. Boom. Paro got jammed, like someone hitting a 99 mile per hour fastball. The axe went back, and Moshe Rabbeinu ran away. So, how was Moshe able to save himself? Wasn't there Yush? Wasn't there 317? Eliezer! What's Eliezer? When everything seems hopeless, when everything seems lost, when everything seems impossible, person understands it's not lost, it's not impossible. Because there's somebody standing by your right side who is willing and able to help you. And that's Ki Elokei Avi Be'ezri. The way to overcome Yush is Eliezer. When you understand Ki Elokei Avi Be'ezri. Yush is 317. Elokei Avi Be'ezri. Eliezer is 318. Avraham Avinu enters the most hopeless, impossible situation in the world. He's coming to rescue his nephew Lot. Anybody in the right mind would say, Avraham Avinu, what are you doing? It's impossible. Yush! Throw in the towel. You don't have a chance. You're a nothing. You don't even bother. Avraham Avinu says that's what people who have Yush do. They throw in the towel. But I understand. Vayarek es chanicha v'yilidei beisai shmoina asar v'shalosh me'os. Vayirdoif adon. Avraham Avinu rises above Yush. 318. 318 is Eliezer. Avraham Avinu one-ups Yush. He overcomes Yush. Yush is when you don't recognize that Rivan Shalom is able to help. But when a person feels that Ki Elokei Avi Be'ezri, then it's Vayatzileni Mechar Parei. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen an unbelievable thing. Maval al Arayin. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen. The lady comes to Bezdin. And she says, Rav Nachman, the Reish Galusa, and all the rabbis, they're sitting in a stolen sukkah. And the question is, she says, you know who my father is? Rav Nachman doesn't pay attention to her. She says, you know who my father is? My father had 318 slaves. So obviously we all know, what does she mean? Who's her father? Not her biological. It means Avraham Avinu. She says, you know who I am? My father is Avraham Avinu, and you're messing with me. So the question is, if she wanted to say that her father is Avraham Avinu, she could have said, my father passed 10 Nisyanos. My father was willing to sacrifice his son on the Akedah. My father was the greatest Baal Chesed in history. My father was machzer more people b'tshuva than anybody else. What the most important defining feature of Avraham Avinu was, my father had 318 slaves. What's she drumming that up for? Brilliant. Listen to Rav Tzadok HaKohen. Says this lady to Rav Nachman, these people stole my beam. Why aren't they giving it back to me? Oh, I know why. Because they think that when it was stolen, I was miyayish. And they could keep it. They thought I gave up hope. You know who I am. My father is Avraham Avinu. In the most hopeless situation, he took Eliezer and he overcame Yush. A Jew is never miyayish. A Jew never gives up hope. A Jew always rises above Yush. 318. Give me my beam back. I was never miyayish. What she was saying was, you know who I am? I come Mizera Avraham Avinu. In the fabric of Klal Yisrael is, we don't give up hope. We were created in a way that is above Yush. When Avraham Avinu went to rescue Lot, he one-upped Yush. 318, he rose above Yush. You think I gave up hope from the beam, that's why you're not returning it? My father Avram had 318 slaves. Says Chizki HaMelech, Kach mikublani mi beis avi abba. I have a tradition from my grandfather. Afilu cherev chada. Who's his grandfather? Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu. that even when the situation seems most bleak, it's never impossible. Ki Elokei Avi Be'ezri. Says of Tzaddik HaKohen. Look at number 16. So Tzaddik HaKohen is explaining the inyan of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, where we have a mitzvah every single day to remember that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Enough already. Every single day we have to remember Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Believe me, I'm not going to forget. I wear my tzitzis, I put on my tefillin, I make kiddush, I sit in the sukkah, and now on top of that I have to remember in the morning that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, and at night Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. What's the purpose of the reason? Remember Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Don't worry, we're not going to forget. Says the Tzaddik HaKohen, the importance of the mitzvah of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim is because no matter what situation a person finds himself in, no matter how sullied a person thinks he is in sin, no matter how immersed a person thinks he's in sin, no matter how davuk, no matter how attached, no matter what kind of bad habits a person finds himself in, a person should never feel they can't break out of it. A person should never feel they can't do tshuva. Because let a person remember, when we were in Mitzrayim, we were on the Memtesh Shari Tuma. We were Oivdei Avodah Zarah. We were Dovuk Avodah Zarah. We were on the lowest possible level a Jew could fall to. Had we remained there a moment longer, we would fall into the point of no return. And when Hashem took us out, it was not because of anything we did. We didn't do tshuva. We didn't try to be better. We were Eiroim ve'eria. There was no Isarusa de Lasato whatsoever. Nothing. We did nothing. So how did Hashem get us out? Because He had Rachmanas on our neshamas. Says Reb Tzaddik HaKohen, a day of the life of a Jew cannot go by without remembering the idea that no matter what situation a person finds himself in, physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, personal, everybody has to have emunah shalema that kiseitze la melchama alo yavecha, when the Yetzer Hara comes and says, you're in a hopeless matzav, lo yisira mehem, don't be afraid, ki Hashem Elokecha imach, Rebbeinu Shalom is with you, hamalcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. If He took you out of Mitzrayim, He could easily take you out of any matzav you find yourself in now, because whatever matzav you're in now is nowhere as bad as Klal Yisrael were sunk and immersed in Mitzrayim. That's the inyan of Zechiras Yetzias Mitzrayim, says the Tzaddik HaKohen. Even Eliezer himself, in terms of his own ruchnias, we know he started off, he had ideas, he had machinations of maybe marrying off his daughter to Yitzchak, right? Because Chazal say when he said to Avram, Ulai loisoive ha'isha lalechas acharai, so Chazal darshan, Ulai, Eli. Rashi says he had a daughter, and he was trying to find an excuse that Avram should marry Yitzchak off to his daughter. And Avram said, sorry pal, you're a good slave, you're good at shining my shoes, you're good at washing the Sherutim, but Bini Baruch V'ator, we come from good pedigree. You are cursed. You are despicable. You know how Shidduchim work? No, there's not a match. You know what you're talking about? Baruch, you are. Sorry. And yet, what would most people have done? You know, most people say, you know what I don't learn today? You know what I'm not as great as I could be? Because in second grade, one time, my Rebbe marked one of my answers wrong. Oh, that Rebbe, my whole life, it's that Rebbe's fault. My second grade Rebbe. One time, my fifth grade Rebbe, he threw me out of class, and that's why everything, he didn't believe in me. And imagine if the Gadol Hadar would have told you, sorry, you think you can be successful? You're a Lo Yitzchak. It's plain and simple. I mean, Avram Avinu tells Eliezer, sorry, we're not interested in you. You're an Arur. But what does he do? Eliezer said, no problem. Eliezer says, I do what I have to do. And he goes and he finds a shidduch for Yitzchak be'emunah. Says a Medrash Rabbah. Look at number 20. I'm Rabbi Yossi Bar Doisa. Kenan hu Eliezer. Val yedei she'reis oisoi tzadik be'emunah yatsa meklal or leklal bara. Avram Avinu said, you're an Arur. Eliezer said, no problem. I do what I gotta do. I put my bitachon in Hashem. He served Avraham so faithfully He became Baruch. Become Baruch? What do you mean become Baruch? He's from Canaan. Canaan is Ur. That's not something you could change. You can't become a Kohen. You can't become a Levi. No, Eliezer could. He was an Ur, he became a Baruch. But it's impossible. Not for a man like Eliezer. Because Yush is 317. Eliezer rises above Yush. Eliezer rises, and according to the Arizal, the Gilgul of Eliezer was none other than Kalev ben Yefuneh. Kalev ben Yefuneh was one of the, besides Yeshua ben Nun, the only Yid who didn't fall for the plan of the Meraglim. He rose to such a high level. He used to be an Ur. He became a Baruch. He became one of the greatest Jews who ever lived. How's that? He's from Canaan. He's Ur. That's when that's when you have Yush. When you have Yush, you can't do anything. When you have Yush, you can't get out of bed. When you have Yush, you can't even put your feet down on the floor. But a Jew never has Yush. A Jew never gives up hope. By a Yid, there's no such thing as Yush. That's how Hashem built us. Hashem could have easily made Avram and Sarah get married, have a big mishpacha, and everything is hunky-dory. No, Hashem didn't make Klal Yisrael that way. Hashem built Klal Yisrael in a way where it would be impossible for Klal Yisrael to come to be, and it only came to be al yedei Eliezer, to rise above Yush. Interesting remez. If you look in number 26, the Shulei Pinchas brings a beautiful remez about Hagar. Hagar and Yishmael, they're thrown out of the house, and they're looking for water. Vayichlu hamayim el achemes, the water is depleted. Vatashlich es hayeled, she throws the kid tachas achar hasichim, under one of the bushes. In other words, Hagar saw the situation was hopeless. So what did Hagar do? Yush! She gave up hope. What's the gematria of Yush? 317. Eliezer is 318. So what did she do? She threw him tachas achar hasichim. Siach is 318. She went under 318. 318 is rising above Yush. She went under 318. She was meyayish. She fell into despair. She became despondent. She gave up hope. David HaMelech says, I was lost in Sodom. I could have disappeared forever. You know, that Rizal wants to know. One day, Avram Avinu goes to his father. He says, appreciate everything you did for me. You sent me to school. You paid for my tuition. You bought me nice toys. You paid for my chasana. I'm out of here. He told his mother, I'm asloi. Thanks for everything. I'm out of here. He told Aunt Matilda, I'm out of here. When are we going to see you again? Never. How are we going to give you a Hanukkah present? Send it in the mail. UPS. I'm never going to see you again. Avram Avinu takes nobody with him. Nobody. Except one guy. Lot. What's he taking Lot for? Lot's such a tzaddik. Lot's the guy who says, Avram, I don't like to hang out with you. I like to hang out in that place, in that city over there. When people are too tall, they chop off their head. When people come for the night, they're masaris them. That's the kind of place that I like to be. I like to hang out in places where when they're guests, they cover their body in honey and they let the bees kill them. I like that kind of city. And that's who Avram takes with him. And then when he's captured, Avram Avinu risks his life to save him. What does Avram Avinu have to do with Lot? So Rizal says that, actually the Zohar Kodesh says in number 22. Zohar says, V'es Lot ben Achiv, Ma chama Avraham l'davka imei Lot. What does Avram see in Lot? Ella begin the tzafa beruach hakodesh dezamin lemeipak minei David. Because Avraham Avinu knew that who would come out of Lot? David HaMelech. And that's why he's so interested in Lot. In fact, we don't need the Zohar. The Medrash says explicitly on the pasuk, "V'gam leLot ha'hoylechas Avram hayatzainu v'aka v'ayhalem." Lot had tents. No kidding, he had tents. What, he just slept on the floor? No, of course he had tents. The tents refer to Rus HaMoyaviyah and Nama HaMoynes. That means that when Lot goes to Sodom, in one more moment, Lot would have been destroyed, and David HaMelech would have been destroyed forever. Had the Malachim not taken David out at the last moment, when the sword was on the neck, David would have been lost forever, right? The Medrash says, Matzasi is David Avi, I found my slave, my servant David. Where? V'heichad Matzasi Yosei B'stein. That's why David HaMelech says, Gam ki elech b'geit salmaves. Even if I'm in the shadow of death, La ira ra, I will fear no evil. Ki ata imadi, you are with me. Says Chizkiah HaMelech, I have a tradition already from my grandfather David. When did David ever tell him that afilu cherev chada munachas al tzavari shel adam al yimna atzmin arachmin? It's a well-known family legacy that David HaMelech was lost in Sidon. And had the Rebbeinu Shem not had Rachmanas on him in the last second, he would have been lost in Sidon forever. But at the last moment, the Rebbeinu Shem took him. Ayatzileni mecherev paroi. Hashem whipped him out. That's why David HaMelech says, Chaneni Hashem ki yom laloni, Rifaini Hashem ki nevalu atzamai, Shuva Hashem chaltza nafshi hoishieni leman chastecha. Says the Shvilei Pinchas, Shuva Hashem chaltza, Roshei Tevois, Shin, Yud, Ches, 318. David HaMelech says, Gam ki elech b'geit salmaves, there's no Yush. By a Jew, the number 317 is a dirty number. We don't use that number. 317 is not for us. We're Eliezer, we're 318. We rise above Yush. Says Reb Tzadok HaKohen, Ein liyehudi lehisyayesh mishum davar. In one's health, there's no Yush. Refuah will come. Emotionally, refuah will come. Family, there'll be a Yeshua. There is no hopelessness. One of the great Sephardic Oinim of this century was Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul. It's well known, it's printed in many Sfarim, that when he was a kid, he was a big shovav. You know what a shovav is? Shovav is bandit, menace, right? Dennis the Menace, but Ivrit is Daniel HaShovav. Right? And to the fact where he was kamat, thrown out of Yeshiva's Parshas Yosef. And he rose to become one of the top Gedolei Yisrael in the Sephardic world and in all of Klal Yisrael. And he has a whole kuntras, a whole section of a sefer about Yush, about Yush. When Tzion Abba Shaul, he chazered every single thing he learned, every Gemara in Shas, 40 to 60 times. 40 to 60 times. He says that sometimes a person says, learning, it's not for me. I have no cheshek to learn. I don't really desire it. He said, you know what that's like? That's like somebody who says, I have no cheshek to eat. So why would someone not have a cheshek to eat? Because they're ill, they're sick. Their body is not strong enough to want to eat. So what do they have to do? They have to force themselves to eat until they gain strength. And they develop an appetite on their own. Same thing with learning. Never be miyayish. Don't give up. Don't give up. I'm not interested. I'm not going to understand. I'm not going to chap. I'm not going to really know it. No. You do it. You do it. You do it. You build yourself up. Then you're not a chayil anymore. And then you'll be able to learn. You'll want to learn. You'll be successful in learning. Says Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul, very often in life, a person thinks that the reason why they're not being successful, they say, I'm never going to be successful, and therefore they throw in the towel, therefore they're miyayish. He said just the opposite. It's not you're not being successful, and therefore you're miyayish. It's you're miyayish. You give up hope. You throw in the towel. And then, of course, you're not going to be successful. He says very often, Yush comes from laziness. So what? Yush comes from laziness? How's that? He says, let's say a person is trying to do something. Yush is a cop-out. Why? Because why should a person say, it's my fault that I'm not being successful. I'm not trying hard enough. No, it's much easier to say, it's impossible. It's hopeless. It's not. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. And because a person gives up hope, it's not that they're miyayish. It's that they're lazy. And since they're lazy, giving up hope is the easy way out. Person has to know, says Tzion Abba Shaul, and as Rav Nachman Mibraslov says, the famous maxim, Yush Shaloi Midas. Right? The Sugya Ba Metzia, Yush Shaloi Midas. Yush is Shaloi Midas. Yush is a form of insanity. There is nothing that destroys, there's nothing that takes down, there's nothing that saps a yid of energy more than Yush. There's nothing that breaks a person more than Yush. He brings down, there's a sefer, Sheva Yipol Tzaddik. The Tzaddik falls 7 times. It's a modern sefer. He brings down from the Ben Ish Chai. Sometimes the person wakes up in the morning, he says, I should daven. Does Rebbe Shem really want my davening? You know what I did in the past. You know what I did yesterday. You know what I did last night. He quotes from the Ben Ish Chai in Parshas Vayeshev that every single day, just like the Rebbe Shem is Mechadesh B'chol Yom Tamid Ma'aseh V'Reishis, and the sun is new, and the moon is new, and the water is new, every day the Rebbe Shem gives a person a brand new neshama. And whatever you did in the past has no bearing on what you're going to do in the future. Past performance is no bearing on future outcome. Every day you start fresh. Every day you have a brand new neshama, which is not bogged down, which is not tied down, which is not connected in any way with what a person did in the past. Avram Avinu knows how the Rebbe Shem is going to create Klal Yisrael. That his union of Avraham and Sarah is beyond Yush. It's when Yush, there's no hope. It's impossible. It's helpless. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. And from there, the Rebbe Shem made Klal Yisrael. Avram Avinu says the easy thing would be 317. Yush. But I rise above Yush. I use Eliezer. Eliezer is 318. Says the woman to Rav Nachman, Nachman, you think I was miyayish on this beam? No such thing. I remember after the Holocaust, my grandfather was interviewed. So they asked him, Rabbi, said, you see millions of your brothers and sisters murdered, massacred. Did you at any point lose hope in the promises of the Torah? Did you at any point lose hope in your God? He said, did I ever lose faith? He said, of course I lost faith. I lost faith in mankind.
That's right.
How could it be that a civilized society like Germany could shed their conscience and murder human beings? How could Great Britain ignore what was happening right in their backyard? How could Roosevelt and the United States of America make believe they didn't know what was happening? So did I lose hope? I lost hope in man, but never for a moment did I lose hope in Ribbon Shalom. My hope in the Ribbon Shalom was only stronger. And this is what Rav Tzadok HaKohen says. By a Yid, there's no 317. There's no Yush. Ki Elokei Avi Be'ezri. You know, sometimes in life we say, Shir Lam Alois, Eso Einai El Horim, Me'ayin Yavo Yezri. Sometimes in life we throw up our hands. Where's our help going to come from? Often it seems Me'ayin. Nowhere. Me'ayin. It's impossible. It's impossible. Me'ayin Yavo Yezri. And it's taka impossible. B'derech HaTeva, it's taka me'ayin. But Ezri Me'im Hashem Oisei Shamayim V'aretz. You know where our help is going to come from? That our help is going to come from Eliezer Ki Elokei Avi Be'ezri. It's going to come from the Rebbe Shem. Oisei Shamayim V'aretz. Why does David HaMelech say it's going to come from the Rebbe Shem who is Oisei Shamayim V'aretz? We all know Hashem made Shamayim V'aretz. You know why David HaMelech says that? Because how did Hashem make Shamayim V'aretz? He made it from bricks. He made it from something. It was creation ex nihilo. It was yesh me'ayin. And if Rebbe Hashem created the world yesh me'ayin, then Rebbe Hashem could help every single person. Me'ayin yava yezri. So this is the limud of Avram Avinu. Vayarek es chanichav yilidei beisa yishmayna asar shleish me'ais. Avram Avinu rises above Yush and he instills in Klal Yisrael Ein li Yehudi lehisyayish b'shum davar. May Olam have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.